Alright guys, Jack here, JBF Music and Guitar Lessons. What I've got for you today is an analysis of the song Screaming by Bandmaid. If you want to check the straight reaction to it, I'll put the eye-ups in one of these corners. I always forget which one. This is going to be lots of pausing, lots of explaining about what's going on. There's one thing in particular I think I might be able to kind of touch on and demonstrate here, and it's partly like why Bandmaid sound like Bandmaid. Whether that pans out or not, I don't know, but fingers crossed. If you want to chuck some money in the virtual hat, as it were, PayPal's the best way to do that. Alternatively, if you have the means and inclination to support the channel, make sure to help patreon.com/JBFmusic. And at that point, I'd like to say a huge thank you to Rabbi Rabs, Matt Hortzman, Glenn Kelly, Stephen Williams, Rebecca Haight and Dale's Ghost for their continued support on that platform. Thanks so much, guys. This was a request made through Patreon, and that's the best way to do them because it gets bumped up the list. I do always try to take everything on board, but I have this never-ending list of things to check out, which is both amazing and terrifying. Anyway, too much for me as per usual. Let's start at the start and go from there. Cool, so what I've gone for here is the live, it's probably quite obvious, the live music video. There's a bit more energy in this one than the single, I find, which is why I've gone for this one. What's not quite as apparent in this one, which is more obvious in the studio version, is that Konami has her probably, it might be the Eventide at this point in time, might be the Digitech drop, doubling her guitar up the octave. So that's one of these things that makes it sound a bit more Bandmaid, and this is the riff I kind of want to use as a slight case study. You know what? Yeah, I think I'll do that bit first, and then I'll go through the rest of the song because this is I can hear this riff in my head going a few different ways. So that thing. It's kind of shreddy. Okay, I think they might be, it's likely they're down half a step, so bear with me. I'm going to tune every string down, and hopefully this will be easier to play, otherwise I think it'll be a total nightmare. It's possible that this song is in standard tuning. The reason I think it's down half a step is I just assumed it might be in E minor, and when I played that it sounded wrong. So, for example, you can hear that works much better. E minor is a very guitar friendly key to play, and I know that they play in it quite a lot, and I know they sometimes use drop tunings, so that's what I'm guessing. The first thing I kind of want to do is look at that riff itself, so I'll slow it down, we'll break it down, and then we'll have a bit of fun with it, hopefully. So we've got this. Play that a bit slower. Just to break it down for good measure as well, we start off on the 12th fret on the, it's really a B flat, but I'm just going to call it B string, otherwise my head will explode with the confusion. So we got that, down to the 7th fret on the G, up to 12, 11, 12. So that part of it. Back onto the B string on the 10th fret, up to 12, back down to 10. So we've got and if you think of this 12 as kind of repeating it, so we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, right? And on that note we're kind of repeating it. So we're going to go here. So you get this kind of cool displacement. So hopefully you can see that it's that phrase repeating. Repeat. Now, we're a few notes short of the bar, so to wrap it up we need to go 12 on the B, 10, 12 on the G, down to 11. And that full thing, the repeat, and the notes to finish it off. We then have this part. which is just, it's a kind of cool chromatic thing. So we're using, I won't go too much into the theory, but this note here, the spicy note is the blues note, and slowing that down a bit. So it's chromatic. It's this note here, making it sound kind of spicy. It's a bit of a kind of tongue twister or finger fiddler, however you want to phrase it. The best way is kind of to think of it in 4 chunks because it's kind of a strange rhythm. So if you think of the first one as being 11 12 11 12 on the B string, the next one as being 13 12 11 12. So if you put those back to back, right. And the next one we go, so that's 11, 12, 13, 12. So far, second pattern, third pattern, and back to the first pattern, 11, 12, 11, 12. It's the sort of thing that if you write it down in tab and you see the groups of 4, it can be a bit easier to kind of lock it into your brain. Now there's some very typical trademark Konami style playing with the slippy slidey slides. So there, what she's doing, I think this is the position judging by the video that she's playing it in, sliding up to the 9th fret on the G, then you just kind of slide into the 8th fret. It doesn't really matter where you're sliding from. If you slide from a semitone below, it's going to be more accurate but not sound quite as right. And then we go up to the 10th fret on the E, 10th fret on the B. So you just kind of slide in from below. Oops. And just use whichever finger's easiest for you to, get it accurate. See, that's the sort of thing that happens if you go for bigger slides, pull the string off the fretboard. Just slow it down a bit. For the chords underneath, we've got this. So to break that down, as power chords, we've got the C5 power chord, or it's really it'd be really a B because we're down half a step. I'm just gonna call it C because it's easier for my little musician brain. So we've got 3rd fret on the A string, 3rd fret on the D, 3rd fret on the G, and you can either downstroke all of these or up and down. Take the exact same shape and move it up to 5, 7, 7. Then we're going to move it up once again to 7, 9, 9 on the same strings here. One final time up to 10, 12, 12. So that's slowly. The second time round, instead of going up to the 10, we just stay on the 7. So you get this. Stay here. So what makes this Bandmaid-y? What makes it sound like Bandmaid? Sometimes the easiest way to explain why something sounds like something is explain why it doesn't sound like something else. Being a huge Iron Maiden fan and having seen them doing their Somewhere in Time tour recently, that popped into my head when I was hearing that line. It sounds a bit like one of their do-do-do-do. You know the song Papa Roach kind of stole it from? Is it No Prayer from the Dying? There's something like do-do-do-do-do-do. So I had to have a sort of a total tangent there to find out which Maiden songs it's used in. So there's a few that are very similar to the Papa Roach riff, not exactly the same, but based on that do-do-do-do-do-do thing that are kind of. So they've got it in Genghis Khan on a Killers album, they've got it in Bring Your Daughter to the Slaughter from No Prayer for the Dying, Moonchild in Seventh Son, and there's also a similar one in, I think it was just those 3, and it's not exactly the same riff, but it's kind of like in the vein of, so that's kind of what popped into my head, this kind of Aeolian minor sound. That kind of a minor-y thing. Or something like the bridge in Hallowed Be Thy Name. done a reaction analysis to that before, so if this is interesting, you click the eye up there, and I'll put some Iron Maiden related stuff there for those of you that are into that kind of thing as well. But I'll just take this basic riff, right, the Konami had, as the basis, and I'll put different stuff around it. So what I'll do is have that one guitar just playing that riff. I will do an Iron Maiden style chord progression, which would be a bit more like. So put that underneath it, then I'll take this line, I'll harmonise it a third above. Oh, come on. No. Cool, got it there. Which is quite a 80s Iron Maiden-y thing to do. And then I'll add in some other harmonies just to make it sound, it might actually end up sounding a bit more Queen. It might actually sounding a little bit more like Queen the more harmonies I add in. I'll put a gallop in as well, and hopefully you can see how we can take a simple idea and we can kind of like transfer it to like a different band type context. So that took me much longer to do than I hoped it would. Hopefully I can edit it together and it won't be a total mess. I also realised that my primary microphone wasn't on for the start of the video, so apologies, but I think it's on now. I'll double check that Cubase is still behaving itself and then we'll get back to it. So I gave a brief explanation as to why that would sound more like Iron Maiden. I'm using a chord progression that's typical of them. The gallop, the harmonies, the overdubs. It might end up being a bit kind of Thin Lizzy Queenish because I kept adding layers upon layers upon layers, which is more of a Queen or Thin Lizzy, or maybe Wishbone Ash kind of thing to do. The Maiden, they tended to have not so many harmonies, more so in, I suppose, the Seventh Son and Somewhere in Time albums. What Bandmaid would do to make this more Bandmaid-y is, well, first of all, the lick is different. Instead of just that thing repeating, it does do that thing. So then we got the sliding as well. So what this is kind of doing, this slide, I suppose, is implying a E major 7 add 11. So we got this note here and this note that aren't really from the chord. They're adding a kind of bit of spaciness. I'll try and play that so you can hear it a bit more. The melody, when I heard it first, reminded me of a Jam song called Eating Rifles, which I think is Saralin. We go. So what's that? Second go. So it's interesting, like that a song can make you think of like Iron Maiden and the Jam in one kind of simple passage. So the first thing is the chord progression. They've got this ascending, which is a bit more pop punk, a bit more upbeat, a bit more Bandmaid than the kind of typical Maiden. Which is maybe a bit darker sounding. The other thing is the guitar tone, which I think I've got dialed in here, where we've got the kind of octave doubling thing. So I'll have a pop at it with this kind of octave setting on. So what are we? Okay, so just about stopped my way through that. And you can hear with this effect on, it's a bit more kind of dancey than Iron Maiden-y. Bit more kind of modern, bit more contemporary. So you take this line, you put the effects on it, you change the chords, and then also this chromatic thing. I messed it up, but you get the idea. Is using this note here, which is adding a lot of spice. So you've got this note that's out of key, a B and a C, which the C works quite well over the C, unsurprisingly. Then over the D, it's going to cause a wee bit of kind of tension. You're going to get a D kind of minor 7 sort of sound, and the B is going to kind of work with the D as well. It's going to add in like a sixth above it. So let's see if I can figure out how to play that chord. This kind of thing. Is that going to work? Yeah, it should. Much jazz. Nice. So, while that could sound like a jazzy chord because of the way it's arranged, I'm going to double check, did I get that right? So we've got a B and a C over a D. Put in the C, put in the B, yeah. And then I had the major third, and yeah, so this kind of... Yeah. Which if you voice it as one chord, and we put on a less weird tone, you can hear it's... Where does that want to resolve to? Okay. Very, very jazzy kind of...
Admirable.
But that is enough of that. Let's get to the rest of the song. I have melted my head a little bit by going far too deep into that little rabbit hole there. Hopefully it's of some use to you guys. Oh yeah. Yeah, I'd forgotten about that bit entirely. So, dun 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 dun. It's kind of like almost a metalcore-y thing. Dun 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 dun. Thing going on. And then it changes the root to the G, which is also very kind of modern metal. Because of the tones that they're using and because of the way they're playing it, it's not quite as kind of modern metal. It's a bit more Bandmaid-y. And then that's a really cool riff, so I'll break that one down as well. Starting on this lowest string, I'll just play open, go up to the 5th fret on, I'm still calling it the D string, but it's a D flat. Then we go back to the open, 4 on the D string, back to the open, 5 on that D string, and then up to 7 on the G string. So you have... So there's a few things going on here. If you pan mute it, it's going to be a bit tighter. If you don't, it'll be... Which is really lovely in its own right, but doesn't have the same thing. Another good trick with this is to use your thumb to mute the E string when you're not playing it. So you go, and then when you go to play this 5th fret on the D string, thumb comes over to mute that string. I'll put a bit of speed on that so you can see it in action. So if you're wondering how like sometimes things can sound very clean or very sloppy, so there's like I'm missing the strings as well, but there's no pan muting at all, like a ring into each other, pan muting, and you can hear this kind of that grumbling out throughout it. If we mute that in between, what changes next time is instead of it being an open D, we've got a 3rd fret on the E string. So. Oops. So it's a bit more of a stretch there. I'd maybe consider moving that note up to here. Well, yeah, the way I do it, because I'm lazy, is I'd go and then hybrid pick this on the 3rd fret on the B string. So using my finger there, rather than. In fact, I'd hybrid pick that as well. But again, this is just like a lazy thing, so I try to be as consistent as possible using minimal effort, and that's why I do that. But the way they probably play it would be... And because you're playing the G string here, we can just lift our finger off slightly. Sorry, they're playing the G on the A. Well, the second time round, you don't need to worry about the muting so much, because if you hold it down, it does ring into it, but you kind of bounce it off. So I'm not really lifting it too far off, I'm just kind of moving it just enough to like mute the string. It doesn't matter if it comes off a bit more than that. It's going to help keep it clean. So we'll do the thumb from this angle as well, so that might make a bit more sense. So you can just see it's coming in. I'm muting it. If that interests you, and I've got cards left, I'll link to Dimebag Darrell's left-hand muting technique, because this is kind of where I learned a lot of this stuff from, as kind of metal guys. And again, what makes this sound more Bandmaid-y rather than more metalcore-y is a metalcore band, metalcore Taylor, metalcore band would probably harmonise it soon. I'll try and, I'll tell you what I'll do, I've aimed for a penny and for a pound, I'll do the metalcore version of it, right? So again, it's just how the band interprets the ideas and how they kind of put them together as a group to make the Bandmaid magic happen. You got the kind of harmonics going on here in the guitar as well, so it's sort of kind of on Miku's guitar. Again, all these small stylistic choices that are just making it sound different, making it sound quite unique. And there she's playing it, the riff open. It might be up the octave. No, I don't think it is. I'll double check that. I need to find out what's going on there. I know it's what's going on there. She's playing differently. I'm not too sure if it's. Oh, it could be that. Playing it open. That would be my guess as she going. So open E, G, open G, 4th fret on the D, open G, 3rd on the B. Messed that up. Then I would just put your thumb over the top for when it comes around the second time. So thumb on that 3rd fret on the low string, open G, 4 on the D, open G, and the B. And again, you can hear it's quite a kind of jazzy chord. Very 80s. Kind of ballady, a bit Boys of Summer-ish. The other thing this reminded me of, remember the Space Cadet pinball they used to have on the Windows computers? It's reminded me of that a bit as well, and it's a similar idea where it's this pattern. You cast your mind back to the start of this when I was showing that this is sort of a pattern that's kind of displaced itself, it's syncopated. I'll link to displacement stuff up with the cards, but it basically means you take a measure and instead of playing it in the same place, in the same bars, so instead of 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, you maybe have a measure of 3, so it goes 1, 2, 3, and then it starts here instead of starting it on the beat it would, and you get this kind of like slightly disjointed feeling, but it's also kind of more interesting. It sounds a bit more kind of proggy, and that's what happens in the Space Cadet pinball theme as well. I did start transcribing it years ago, but then gave up. But it's I've been on my to-do list for probably 10 years at this point to learn that on guitar. So I think it's just a banging theme tune. Cool, so it's quite sparse here. You just got a kind of duduk on the drums, a little bit of backing vocals coming in, some bass too. Yeah. Rhythm guitar as well, and a bit of kind of high stuff on the lead, but when the guitar, you really notice when the guitars drop out because they add so much. When you got like that thing going on, it adds so much texture and mid-range. Cool, and these tiny little micro pauses that they love to do there. Brilliant. Yeah. The drums really ramping up the kind of energy here, the beat. Sounds like the kick drums just do 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 do. Might be a tom. And interesting when it's talking about thirds on the Iron Maiden harmony, we can hear that in the vocals here. So that's one of them, and the harmony is going. Yeah, so. Yeah, so you got this kind of harmony in the vocals as well. So just this bit here, where we get, and you get that kind of harmony thing going on. which obviously isn't in the song, but is in my mind because I was thinking about Iron Maiden. Cool, we're back to that kind of theme, which sounded oddly more triumphant here. Are the chords the same? No. Probably, yeah, because it's starting on that major chord to another major, to the minor, then a major. It sounds more uplifting than the previous part, which was a bit more minor in tonality. Yeah, I'm fairly sure it's the open strings. Sounds like that's what's going on. We've got some cool bassing going on here with the drums. And the kind of circus ground. Dissonant stuff. The drums really kind of staggered to just add a whole different dimension here, isn't it? And there's all these kind of weird high-pitched kind of squealy noises. Add a new texture. And again, octaves which are kind of extending the chord and giving it this kind of... It's not really jazzy, it's almost kind of like post-rock. Just extending the chords and make it sound a bit more lush. Really spot on with the harmonising there. Sounded brilliant. That's got to be one of the most simple fills she's done, eh? And a more minor-y section here as well, so it'll make the triumphant part sound more triumphant. It's this kind of contrasting thing, isn't it? Between harmony and dissonance and all minor and major. So this is almost like a kind of Metallica or kind of Megadeth, Pantera, kind of just like thrashy solo, just lots of Slayer, you know, kind of lots of trem picking, angry chords underneath. So I suspect a bit like a Kerry King solo, this is more about kind of a texture thing, or the his name is Vernon Reid from Living Colour. He's kind of more about kind of texture a lot of the time than you know, Paul Gilbert style accuracy, because it just adds a bit more kind of fire to the song. Some pretty fast sliding there on the guitar. If you ever wonder why people do this thing when they're singing, it's not to look cool. You do it yourself, or you're speaking and then you put your can't remember what it's called, but you know the fleshy bit of your ear, hopefully it'll bring up an overlay. If you push that in, you can hear things better. Your voice reverberates in your head more. So if you've got a headphone in and you do this, you have more of your own voice. So instead of signaling to the sound guy, oh, can I be a tiny bit louder for like this tiny bit of song, and just do that and you can hear yourself more clearly. So I suspect that's what she was doing there, is just putting a little bit of pressure on the linear monitor to get a bit of her... Because you hear... This is why people hate the sound of our voices. I'm no exception here when we hear it played back. Because when you hear it in your head, it's got this extra resonance, and then you hear it in real life and you sound like a sort of chipmunk speaking through the nose all the time. It could have just been a stage move, but it looked a bit... like she was wanting it to just double check the pitch. Obviously, if you're playing guitar or something, not as easy to do. Using both hands. Or drums or bass, you know. So we've got those static octaves here, right? This is just kind of doing a D over
Yeah, so that's... Yeah, so those octaves are staying there, while the chords underneath are changing. So what's happening here is quite cool as well. It's more of this kind of jazzy extension stuff. So we've got that aforementioned E5 chord. What's happening is we're playing a D and another D over the top of it. Those of you that are hot on your music theory, and I know there's a lot of you out there, will recognise that as an E minor 7 chord. Again, very jazzy in its own right. But when you play it, one guitar here and one guitar here, which I will try to demonstrate for. It just has a totally different feel to it, more kind of pop punk, more kind of rock. That is, before I forget, that's an aspect of their songwriting I find really interesting. I did do a breakdown of some of their uses of chords in a completely, I think it might be in Puzzle. I'll link to, if I've got eyes left, I'll link to it with the one in the corner. Just a huge snare roll there, brilliant. Bass going off, big kind of crescendo ending. I'm going to put that, I've actually delivered that last line fantastically. Vocals. Little voice crack there. Kind of pushing it over the... it must be a passaggio for women as well, where your voice kind of cracks. And a lovely bit of kind of vibrato and kind of whispering it slightly. I've got a bad feeling this is going to be a bit of a messy one, so I do apologise in advance. The turning Bandmaid into Iron Maiden did melt my brain a little bit, so sorry for that, guys. If you have a suggestion other than trying to make everything sound like Iron Maiden, put one in the comments or hit me up on Patreon. If you want to watch more stuff like these videos, you can click subscribe to keep up to date with the channel. The important thing is I hope you guys are all having a good one. Cheers.